everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex and today we're going to be talking about how to read more. Really quickly, first of all, I'm obviously in a very different location than you guys are used to. I've mentioned a couple times on my channel that we were going to be moving and we are now in our new house. So we're very excited, but I have not gotten my bookshelf set up yet. I think you might be able to see it a little bit over my shoulder, but it is empty right now. And I don't know where my permanent filming setup is going to be. So we're going to deal with this setting for right now. Maybe there might be some more changes to the background as we get settled into the house and I figure out where I want to film, but this is what we're working with today. And for today's video, we're going to be talking about how to read more. Now, I've been wanting to do a video on this topic for a while, but I feel like a lot of people don't feel like they read enough and they want to learn how to read more. So I'm going to give you some of my tips and tricks and insight on the subject. But before we get into the video, if you're new here and you're not already, be sure to go down and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. And without further ado, let's get started. So when it comes to reading more, the reason that I wanted to make a video on this subject and the reason that I feel like I kind of can make a video on this subject is because I do read a ton. If you don't know anything about me, I am a work-at-home mom, stay-at-home mom, so I do have a little bit more time in my day than most people. I will say I'm at home, I have the leisure to listen to an audiobook while I'm doing things throughout the day, things like that. I do just have a little bit more time in my schedule to be reading, but I feel like the tips that I'm going to put forth can really work for anybody in any situation, no matter what your lifestyle is. Now that being said, like I said, I do read a lot. Just to put it in perspective for you, right now it's the end of May and I think I've already finished 75 books this year. So I do read quite a bit and all of these tips that I'm going to be giving you today kind of let you into how I pull it off. So my first tip, if you want to read more, is to understand your why. I feel like this goes for no matter what habit you are trying to make, but if you do want to read more, you need to understand why you want to read more. Are you wanting to get into some nonfiction and learn more about a certain field or your business or whatever? Are you just wanting to escape and have some leisure time for yourself? Are you wanting to read to be able to connect with other people, whether that be in a real life book club or on Instagram or whatever the case might be? Understand why you want to read more. So if you only want to read because you feel like you should, or because you think you're a slow reader, or you think everybody else is reading more than you, don't put the pressure on yourself. If you want to read more, it needs to be a more personal reason. And if you do start to try to read more and you find that you would rather spend your time playing Animal Crossing or spending time with your loved ones or exercising or watching TV or whatever hobby you find that you're more interested in, that's okay. So understand your why, and if it turns out that reading isn't really high on your priority list, don't put the pressure on yourself. That tip might seem kind of counterintuitive, but I do think it's really important to understand why you are putting so much time into reading. So tip number 2 is to set a schedule. So for this, I encourage you to look at the way that you're currently spending your day. Obviously, every day for everybody is different, but we do all kind of fall into a routine of sorts and figure out a place that reading can fit into your schedule. So for instance, of course, I read throughout the day as much as I can, but my set scheduled times for me to read are first thing in the morning and last thing at night. I do a lot of reading on my phone, so as soon as I wake up, instead of going on social media to kind of get my brain going, I turn to my ebook and I read a couple chapters before I get out of bed. Same thing at night when I go to lay down, instead of playing a game or getting on social media on my phone, I pull up my book and read until I fall asleep. So those are my 2 scheduled times that I absolutely know I'm going to be reading. Throughout the day, if I do have a spare few minutes, of course I'll pick up a book if that's what I'm feeling like I want to do at that moment in time. But first thing in the morning and last thing at night are my 2 scheduled times to read. So just take a look at your life and see what you are doing on a daily basis that maybe you could fit some reading time into. If you commute, maybe you could listen to an audiobook if you're driving, or if you're taking public transport or someone else is driving you, you might be able to read a physical book, listen to an audiobook, whatever the case might be. Maybe you might be able to fit in some reading time on your lunch break at work. Again, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, whatever it is, just set a scheduled time. It can be as short as 15 minutes, but those 15 minutes are going to add up if you are consistent, and you will definitely get some more reading out of that. Now, tip number 3 kind of goes along with that, and that is to think about what you can give up. Now, we only have 24 hours in our day, and if you really want to make reading a priority, then there's something else that you're going to have to give up. So what might be helpful for you is to keep a time log for a few days, maybe even up to a week, and go by 30-minute intervals from the time you get up to the time you go to bed and write down what you actually did all throughout the day. So we all kind of have plans for ourselves and we think this is how our typical day goes, but really there's no such thing as a typical day. Every day is different. We get thrown off of our schedules. So take about a week to track every 30 minutes what you actually did. And the important thing about this is to be honest with yourself. So if you find that you were on TikTok for 2 hours, make sure you're actually writing that down and not trying to make it look better. This is only for you. Be honest about what you are doing. So then at the end of the week, you can go back, look at that log and see if there's anything that you might be able to give up in favor of more reading time. So for example, if you look at your log and you say, wow, I'm really on social media a lot, maybe you'd be able to take a 30-minute chunk away and put a book in there instead. If you really think that you can't find any time to put reading in there, consider maybe if there are any tasks that you can delegate to somebody else in your life. Maybe if there's a chore that you do that's taking up a lot of time, see if you can split the responsibility with somebody that you live with. Or again, maybe if there's another hobby that you're doing that's not serving you or you could just spend less time doing, maybe you can split up that time between your other hobby and reading. Really just fit it to whatever works for you, but think about what it is in your life that you would be willing to give up if it meant that you could read more. My fourth tip is to find your book twin. Now, what I mean by book twin is somebody that you really, really trust their recommendations and you have pretty much the same reading taste as they do. So you know that if they liked a book, you're probably gonna like it. And if they didn't like a book, then you probably won't like it. There are so many ways that you can find your book twin. If you know people that read in real life, if your friends read, you might be a book twin with one of them. Just get into a discussion with them about the books that they like and don't like. If you don't have anybody in your real life or in a book club, look to the internet. There are so many people all over YouTube, Bookish Podcasts, Bookstagram, and you are sure to find your book twin if you look hard enough. So look into your favorite genres, some of your favorite books, see who has liked the same books that you do, and then follow them, connect with them, get recommendations from them on their platform. The thing about reading is that there is literally something under the sun for every single interest. So don't force yourself to read things that you don't like just because you think that you should. Find your book twin, whatever they're reading, give it a shot. You can also find the opposite of your book twin if you think that might be productive. If there's somebody that they hate everything that you like and they like everything that you hate, you might just be able to take their recommendations in reverse. If that's something that you're really, really looking for some recommendations, then that might help you. But I think that finding your book twin is really exciting and it gets you motivated, because if there's a book that you've been thinking about and you hear them raving about it, then you're definitely going to be motivated to pick it up. Now, tip number 5 is a more concrete and practical tip, and that is to read multiple books at once. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that they could never keep up with more than one book at once, and I understand that. I used to be that way, but I have managed to find a system that works for me where I am always reading at least 3 books at one time. So for me, I always have a physical book, an ebook, and an audiobook going at all times. So the way that that kind of works for me is that I have different methods of reading and times that I read each format, and I have different expectations for myself when it comes to those different formats. So the first thing that I will do is kind of segment when I'm reading each book. So what works for me is first thing in the morning and last thing at night, I'm always reading my ebook, always reading on my phone. Throughout the day, while I'm doing chores or running errands in the car, I'm always listening to my audiobook. And if I ever have time where I'm by myself, my kid is asleep, I don't have any work that I'm doing, or I'm outside relaxing and I can focus a little bit more, then I will pick up my physical book. So I have segmented times that I know I'm going to be experiencing each of the different books in different formats. Now, that being said, I have different expectations for myself for each of these formats. I know that I'm probably going to get through a lot more audiobooks than I will physical books. I'm listening to audiobooks at least 2 or 3 hours throughout the day, every day, when I'm doing chores, when I'm out running errands, when I'm working outside, when I'm doing whatever I can do, have one headphone in, listen for my kid with the other one. I listen to my audiobooks sometimes on 3 times speed, so I get through audiobooks really, really quickly, and it's not uncommon for me to finish an audiobook in a day. But on the other hand, I do have some days where I don't even pick up my physical book. And that is okay with me because I'm still getting progress made on my ebook and my audiobook. So I know for a fact that my physical books are gonna go a heck of a lot slower than my audiobooks, and I've just learned to be okay with that. The other tip that I will say when it comes to reading more than one book at once is to pick different genres. So I am almost never reading the same genre in 2 different formats, because in that case, I do feel like it's very, very easy to get confused and to get your plot lines and your characters mixed up. So I just say to find what works for you. So for example, I know that 99% of the time I cannot listen to fantasy on audio because I will get lost. So if I want to pick up a fantasy book, I make sure to do it in an ebook or a paper print format. Whereas something like a lighthearted contemporary, I can easily listen to on audio because if I do zone out for a minute, it's easy to get back in and figure out where I was. So I make sure that all of my genres are always different. So for example, right now, the physical book that I'm reading is an adult romance, so a contemporary. The ebook that I'm reading is a mystery thriller, and the audiobook that I'm listening to is a sci-fi. So it's always something different, and that is the way that it helps me to compartmentalize who is doing what, where we're talking about, and I can get right back into the story as soon as I pick up whatever book I'm reading. And the last tip that I'm gonna give may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but that is to DNF more. So DNF stands for do not finish, and I really struggled with this for a long time. It took a lot for me to DNF a book. I really wanted to push through everything that I started, but I find that if you push through a book that you're really not liking, it's likely to put you in a reading slump, which is gonna make you not wanna read, and you wind up reading less overall. So my personal rule of thumb is to give it about 25 or 30% of the way through a book, and if I'm really not enjoying it, then I will put it down. And the thing you have to remember about DNFs is that it does not have to be forever. I actually have a shelf on my Goodreads called Put Down for Now. So there are a few books that I was not into in the moment that I was reading them, but I thought, maybe one day I will want to pick this back up. I just put it down for now. I forgot everything about it, but if I do ever decide that I want to pick it back up again, that's totally fine. Now, on the flip side, there are books that I've DNF'd that I said, I never want to read this, and that's fine too. But giving yourself the freedom to read what you want to read when you want to read it is just life-changing. But I find that if you are taking the time to find books that you are really excited for and that are motivating you to pick them up, you're going to get through them faster and you are going to read more just because you're reading what you actually like. So that is it for my tips on how to read more. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative. I know that some of these tips might seem common sense, might seem really evident, but they are the things that have really helped me put in perspective why I want to read more and how to actually make it work in my real life. Let me know if you guys like this just kind of sit down, chit chat, advice style video. I'd really like to do more of them. So if there's anything bookish related that you want to know my opinions on or get some advice about, let me know in the comments down below because I would love to do another video like this. But that is it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below and let me know one of your tips on how to read more. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to go down and give it a big thumbs up as well as hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. So until next time, bye!